In this video, I'm going to teach how V equals IR describes electricity, but it can also describe water through a water hose. It makes it intuitive to understand. So if you picture this as a water hose, then this is the water that's coming out of it. So the pressure that's coming out of it, like how strong the water comes out, that's like the V, or the voltage. And the number of drops per second is kind of like the I. The I stands for the intensity of current. Now, current, well, I'll describe that later. So current, I'll describe that after the resistance. So the resistance, that's like putting your thumb over, okay, that's my attempt to draw, okay, that's not a thumb, but anyway, you get the idea. It's like putting your thumb over the end of the water hose, the resistance is. So the more you put it over the water hose, the more pressure there is. So if I'm going to go through C real quick, and then I'll go back to that. So C is the intensity of current, and that's measured in amps or amperes. And what an amp is it's the number of coulombs per second. So a coulomb is about 6 with, I believe it's 18 zeros after it. And I won't write it out like that, but I'll write in scientific notation. 6 times 10 raised to the, 6 times 10 raised to the 18th power. So a coulomb is approximately that many electrons. So if I say coulomb per second, then that is equal to an amp. And an amp is equal to the intensity of current, or I. So you could think of water molecules as like electrons, like, you know, the H2O. You could picture like kind of like a Mickey Mouse head, it looks like, is one way to think of a water molecule. It has the hydrogen and oxygen. So the 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. That looks more like eyes and mouth. But anyway, either way you go. So you could think of this as like a water molecule. So 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. And so that makes up 1 water molecule. So that would be like 1 electron. So if you have a drop of water, that's made up of a bunch of water molecules. Just like a coulomb is made up of a bunch of electrons. So now you could say the number of, sort of like the number of drops per second, is the intensity of the water flow out the water hose. And the resistance is like putting your thumb over the water hose. So what that'll do is, notice the math here. If you have, like, when the variables touch each other, that means that you multiply them together. So if I double the R, then the V doubles. Just say if this is 10 volts, that equals, say, 2 and 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. So if I double the 5, then it would be 2 times 10, which is 20, which would double the voltage. And it would be like putting the thumb over the water hose twice as much, and to make the pressure come out twice as strong. But if I do something like double, or in other words, turn the water hose up more, like double the intensity of current in that analogy, if I turn the water hose up more, if I double it, then it would be, if I keep R at 5, then doubling this would make it 4. So 4 times 5 is 20. So the pressure or voltage would also be 20. So that's kind of how that works. And so it's the intensity of current, which is sort of like how much you turn on the water hose valve. And the R is like putting your thumb over it to slow down the electrons. Well, it's actually, don't put your thumb over electrons. That would be not safe. But it would be like putting your thumb over the water hose, rather, to make the pressure higher. So that's an analogy of how V equals IR can be represented if you picture a water hose with a certain amount of pressure and putting your thumb over it. And you can rearrange the equations and stuff still works. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments, let me know, and always be safe and never get water around electricity and all the disclaimer stuff. So I'm not an expert, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, this is just for educational purposes, and I hope it helps understand kind of how it works. So thanks for watching. Please click like and subscribe.